Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy folks, and welcome to another exciting episode of Nerdstalgic with me, your host, Luke. How are you all doing? Hope you're doing well. You might have noticed there's a bit of a change, something different with the introduction. I've got a brand new intro, custom made, all professional now, proper professional. I got in touch with a friend of mine who, in his spare time, he does I'm not sure what it's called. Is it, audio design, stuff like that? And we've been working on it back and forth for weeks now. And he finally managed to get it finished for me. It's his voice you can hear on the overlay. I was going to do it, but he was like, well, I've got a pretty good voice. Let me do it. So I let him do it. And it came out really, really well. He did the background music. He did the overlay. Everything was just beautiful. And really helpful and really great during the creative process. Any idea, any sort of thing that I wanted to try, I'd send him a message and he'd be like, yeah, no problem. We'll give it a go. He was actually an incredible guy. If you want to get in touch with him, maybe do a commission, if you liked what you heard and want to do your own, then by all means get in touch. Go onto Twitter, type in Sly Elliott, SLY Elliott, and you'll find him there. He also has his own podcast called Game Gains. That's GAME. I think it's all one word. GAME GAINES. Game Gains. I think I spelled that right. Hope I did. Yeah, I think I did. Anyway, I'm dyslexic. Leave me alone. But yeah, so if you're interested in anything that he does, get in touch with him on Twitter or through his podcast, and then hopefully, work it there. So I just want to say a big thank you to him for doing the brand new introduction and the outro. He did the outro as well, which you will hear at the end. So that gives you more reason to stay till the end. Anyway, on with the episode, on with the topic. Today's episode is going to be a movie review, not a deep dive, just a sort of overall sort of feelings of it. Now, if you've been following me on Twitter, which hopefully you should do, Nerdstalgic_pod, got to plug that in. But if you are following me on Twitter, you will know that I've been very, very excited for this topic, for this movie, for a very long time, since it was announced, I think, a year or two ago at the D23 Disney Expo that they do every year, and they announce all the new things that they're doing, all the new projects. Ever since Disney Plus, they've showed a lot more than they used to. They used to show movies. Now they're showing all the TV shows they're doing. So when the Chip and Dale movie came out, I was really, really excited. Primarily because I remember watching the Rescue Rangers a lot when I was younger. Now, I'll be honest with anybody listening here. I am a young bean. I am a small, tiny bean. I was born in 98. And Rescue Rangers is probably, I think it was 1989 till the early 2000s. I think there was about, if I remember correctly from doing my research, looking at my notes here, I found about 65 episodes. Now, I don't know if that's all one season or if that's split between 1 to 3 seasons. I'm not sure. But that's usually the regular amount, what you'd find with early animation. And they do it somewhat now. It was rare that a season, but any sort of animated show would get more than one season. It'd be very rare if it'd do more than one, and it'd be extremely rare if you'd get 3. Most TV shows or most production companies would say to animators, do 45 to 65 episodes, and then we can just do reruns. And that's where I found Rescue Rangers. Even though it was way before my time, I remember growing up watching the Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, specifically for this this TV show. It was the Disney Toons, which eventually became Disney Showcase here in the UK, and on there you would get all the old sort of House of Mouse, Timon and Pumbaa, Taz of the Mania. Trying to think, I'm sure the Tarzan TV show, which was incredible. Hopefully, I'm still waiting for that to be added onto Disney Plus. Actually, I think that one is on Disney Plus. I think the one that I'm looking for that's on Disney Plus was the Buzz Lightyear TV show. Which, if you're a fan of Toy Story, like I am, more than likely you're a big fan of Buzz Lightyear. And they did a Buzz Lightyear TV show, which was incredible. absolutely amazing. Still's not on Disney Plus. I'm hoping that one day they do. But they did that, and the Goof Troop, and the House of Mouse. I think I already mentioned that, and loads of other things. And obviously during the weekends, Disney and Pixar movies would go on there. So I love Disney Showcase, originally Disney Toons, and that's where I found Rescue Rangers growing up. Having the sort of Indiana Jones or look mixed in with the Magnum PI of Dale. So Chip was like the Indiana Jones, really smart, clever dude, and then you got Dale, who was very sort of Hawaiian shirt, Hawaii 5-0. Not well. He not saying that Magnum PI was an idiot, but more just the fact of Dale's character was the idiot, was the guy that would get a hit on the head, get into trouble all the time, and Dale would no Chip would be the one that sorts Dale out basically and has all the plans. Kind of like Scooby Doo. So that's basically my history of them, and I remember that my actual first encounter with the Rescue Rangers with Chip and Dale wasn't actually through Disney Toons. It was through on the Dreamcast. We had a game on the Dreamcast which was Disney Grand Prix Racing, which eventually we ended up getting on the PlayStation 1. But I remember playing on the Dreamcast. It was my sister's, and absolutely loving it. And I still to this day say that the Dreamcast is overrated completely. And then eventually we got it on the PlayStation 1 for the PlayStation 2 because it was backwards compatible, and then we played it on the PlayStation 3 because the PlayStation 3 was backwards compatible. But eventually, for some unknown reason, Sony just took out the emulator out of their console so that you couldn't play backwards compatible games. I don't know why they did it. It was just something they decided to do. But I played that game all the way up to the PS3. It was one of my favourite kart races. Still to this day, it's still one of my favourite kart races. If I remember correctly, I've got a list of the roster. Not that it's really important, but you know me. Whenever I do a topic, I like to do a bit of story time, give you the listener a bit of a more reason as to why I'm such a fan of what I'm talking about, why I'm so passionate what I'm talking about. Because most people would probably get Chip and Dale. Here's the review. It was good. It was bad. Blah 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 blah. That's it. See you later. Thanks for listening. But me, I like to give you a bit more. I like to tell a story. I love telling stories anyway. So that's why. Even though this bit's not important and I do waffle on a bit, I thought, it's still kind of important. So here's some of the characters that were in the racing. I don't know if any of these ever had their own TV show, but you've got Amanda Sparkle, Bruno Briggs, Otto Plugnut, Oliver Chickley III, Polly Roger, Baron Carlot, Tia Damage, and more Whiplash. And that was as many as I could find. I did try to find a whole full list, but whenever I tried to find it, for some unknown reason, the page that I found that list wouldn't load. But that's beside the point. The point is that's where I originally got my first introduction to the Rescue Rangers. Chip and Dale, their characters were on the Disney Grand Prix Racing, and as I got a bit older, watching the reruns, I enjoyed it because, again, being a young kid, looking at these squeaky sort of characters, getting into trouble, getting into wacky situations, it was great. And to get myself ready for the review, to get myself ready for the movie came out on the 20th of May, on the Friday. So, majority of Thursday to get myself prepared for what I was going to see, because I hadn't seen Rescue Rangers for a very long time. They eventually start rerunning them, and it wasn't until I noticed that they were released on Disney Plus that I thought, you know what, I'll give them a go. And I'll be honest with you, it's very much a product of its time, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just more in the fact of the animation style. It is very sort of 80s, early 90s, very silly. Very much of like, you can tell that its audience is primarily for kids. As an adult, I don't think I could stomach sitting watching it, and it's not because the stories are bad, or not because it's not for nostalgia's sake. Like, for nostalgia, I would watch it, but I don't think if I had kids myself that I could stomach listening to it, mainly because the really, really annoying squeaky voices of Chip and Dale. Now I know how bad my parents felt when I used to put it on, and not just when I used to watch the original Alvin and the Chipmunks, the animated cartoons, how they weren't on TV very long. Whenever, maybe an episode or two, the mum was like, "Oh, let's see if something else on TV," or let's change over to Nickelodeon or watch SpongeBob or something. Because again, even though SpongeBob's annoying, he's more manageable than the very squeaky voices, like that. Sorry about that. That came out of nowhere, and I really hope I didn't hurt anybody's ears if you're listening through a really high-powered speaker or headphones. But no, I don't think I could rewatch it fully as all 65 episodes now as an adult, because I just couldn't get over the voices. But I enjoyed it. It was nice remembering the characters, remembering the silly little gags, the little nuances that made the show what it was. And again, I'm all about nostalgia and the nostalgia stake of it, remembering sort of memories of like watching this when I was sitting there in a nappy with a bottle of tea, um, just watching the Rescue Rangers, or eating beans on toast with like, and sometimes you had the little Bob the Builder. That is like a tin, and it was like a tin of tomato pasta, but the pasta was in shape of like Bob the Builder and stuff like that. I had those memories, and it was just lovely to reminisce on those memories of like, I remember that when I was just sitting there, little kid, didn't know what was going on in the world, happy as Larry, got my tea in my nappy, watching it, and it was great. You know what I mean? So getting myself in that mental state ready for the Chip and Dale movie was absolutely fantastic, and that's what it's all about. That's what whole nostalgia's about. The whole member berries, is going back, remembering what you loved, remembering moments that you thought you forgot, and there's probably people older than me who have had moments like that where you've seen something that you haven't experienced, a piece of music, a piece of art, a book, a movie, TV show, whatever, that you've seen, and you've just instantly, like, that's a raven just like teleported into your mind of like your past of when you were little or when you were young or when you were with your mates or whatever. And I get it all the time because I'm full of nostalgia. I'm constantly reminiscing of the past. It's like I can't let go of the past, mainly because I can't see the future, but I can see what happened in the past. So that's probably why I'm so comfortable in the past. But all that preparation and all the excitement, all the nostalgia couldn't prepare me for what this movie is. And I'm not going to say it here, but I will say it's a pretty good film. But about that, right? So we're going to get into the movie review now. Story time over, into the hardcore review. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Right, so onto the review. So this one's going to be a bit different. If you listened to my podcast episode on the Pixar movie Turning Red, you'll get an idea of what I'm going to do. So I'm not going to do a deep dive. I'm not going to do any spoilers, really, anything like that. I'm just going to give my first impressions, what I feel, and that sort of thing, really. So my overall thoughts and feelings of the film was that I loved it. Honestly, this movie was way better than I thought it was going to be. It is the best movie I've seen this year, and I'll be honest, I'll put my hands up and I'll say I haven't seen Doctor Strange 2 yet. I've been really busy, and I'm not really big on going to the cinemas at the moment. But that being said, putting that to one side, this is the best movie I've seen all year, and I've seen in a long time, and it's also one of the funniest movies I've seen this year. Generally, I laughed, I giggled. There's so many member berries. So this whole movie is just full of member berries. Basically, I wrote down in my notes, it's the Roger. But I'm going back to Star Wars now. Roger. Get my words out. Right. It's the Roger Rabbit movie of the modern age. It's something that I never thought would ever be done again. Primarily because I think the reason they managed to do it was because it was in streaming. Because what you've got to remember is that the Roger Rabbit movie was a ball ache to make and produce, because you had Warner Brothers and you had Disney sharing IP, and basically what that means is intellectual property. So basically, Mickey Mouse belongs to Disney, Bugs Bunny belongs to Warner Brothers, and the whole idea is that, I want to make sure that Bugs Bunny gets this amount of screen time. It's not fair if Bugs Bunny gets 2 minutes of screen time, but Mickey Mouse gets 3 minutes of screen time. They both great characters. They both deserve equal screen time. And it's same with a lot of other characters. It's like, well, if I'm going to give you this character, I want to make sure that, this character gets this much screen time. It's kind of like that, but also it's the fact of, you've also got the money side of it as well. It's the fact of, you say, for example, you're doing a movie and you want SpongeBob in your movie. It's like, okay, then Nickelodeon would be like, well, you want SpongeBob in your movie? Give us $1 million. Probably more than that, if I'm being completely honest. But let's hypothetically sense, it'll be like, well, let's give us $1 million for SpongeBob. Okay, then, here's $1 million. Okay, well, $1 million for SpongeBob, but we want to make sure that SpongeBob is in the movie. He's maybe not be the main character, but we want at least 5 minutes for SpongeBob. Okay, 5 minutes of SpongeBob. There's $1 million. Do it, and then you've got to find a way to make sure that he has exactly 5 minutes because what you pay for, you can't get over that at all. And also the fact of Nickelodeon or Warner Brothers, whoever it is going to want some of the revenue. So if you put this movie out into cinemas, whatever the percentage this movie makes, Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, no matter who it is, whoever owns intellectual property, is going to want a slice of the pie, a percentage or whatever, depending on what it is in the contract. Unless in the contract they agree that they're going to pay a lump sum for the character and you don't get any residuals. But most companies are smart enough to know will pay me for the character, but also I want a percentage because they're going to say, well, it's I gave you SpongeBob, and SpongeBob is the reason why this movie succeeded. So I want so and so X, Y, and Z amounts from you in terms of the box office. So me and a lot of other people in movie buffs and stuff like that, and didn't think a movie like this would ever be made again. But here's the beauty of it. This movie didn't come out in cinemas. This movie came out in streaming. So the beauty part about that is that you can then take out the whole sort of box office, how much money this movie would or could have made in the box office, which I think this movie would have made a good amount of money. Probably not, Avengers level money like, Marvel movies make nowadays, but I think it would have made a couple sort of million. That being said, though, because the movie came out in streaming, one of the beautiful bits about it is the fact of instead of having to pay sort of screen time, residual rights, and all that, Disney had to go to all these different license holders and go, "We want you. How much do you want? Oh, a couple of 100,000, million, blah 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 blah." And then Disney, being Mr. Moneybags, be like, "Yeah, no problem. Here you go." Then you can waiver off the whole sort of screen time, because again, if they're just going to be background characters or side characters, you could just wave them off as, well, they are going to get some screen time, but they're just background characters, they're just filler. So I don't know how it works and all that in terms of money wise, but usually you pay for the character and you pay for the screen time. The more screen time that character has on screen, the more money that ends up getting paid for it. So when it comes to streaming, you don't have to pay the visitor. Basically, Disney keeps everything that this movie makes, so they recoup all their money. So they're more willing to go, yeah, screw it. You want SpongeBob in this movie? Great. You want My Little Pony? Great, no problem. You want you want Ugly Sonic? Yeah, well, no problem. We'll give you Ugly Sonic. We ain't going to use it anyway. Might as well. Here's a lump sum. Here you go. I'll retake the character. Fine, no problem. So I never thought this movie would ever be made, but because of the wonderment of streaming, a film like this could be made. And generally, the that aspect, when you've got all the nostalgia and you've got all the people like me who is a young bean but loves the old stuff, and then you've got the older beans who like the old stuff as well, the stuff they grew up with. Because again, I've got a lot of friends who grew up with Chip and Dale originally when it came out, and all these other characters that show up. It's very much member berries. This is the modern day Roger Rabbit. It is, it's even got Roger Rabbit in it. He's only in there for like a split second, for 2 seconds at best, more of like a blink if you miss it. He's there. Oh, look, there he is, and gone. But it adds to the charm. It adds to the overall fun of what this film is. The basic premise and story of Chip and Dale, even though I went on a bit of a side quest there, I do apologise, but the overall story of Chip and Dale is that you meet Chip and Dale when they're very young in school, where they meet, and how they don't go. They have like a John Hughes sort of flashback of them going through school, learning them to get into like how they met each other, their comedic timing, where they come to being best buds. And as they go on, they eventually go to Hollywood, and then they become like background actors in ads and in TV shows, and eventually they get their shot to be the Rescue Rangers. And then it jumps forwards to the final season of the Rescue Rangers, and they're celebrating. And as you've probably seen this story before. They're at the height of their fame, height of their career, and that basically One of the characters basically decides that, I no longer want to be second fiddle. I want to be the star, um, and goes off and does their own thing, does their own career. Like, I don't really want to spoil the story, even though I know it's a kids' film. I don't want to spoil it because it kind of adds to the fun and the charm of it, and the overall sort of story narrative as well. So they break apart as they do, and then it jumps forwards to modern day. Dale has had CGI. Um, it's kind of like the idea of plastic surgery to become relevant, to still be seen as young and as hip. Dale has had the CGI, so he is very, even though we know he's not realistic, he looks more realistic than a cartoon, like a 2D animated. Whereas Chip, he still staged the 2D animated style from the TV show, and the story goes on from there. It's a crime story, so there's a lot of mystery, trying to figure out what happened, what's going on. And again, like I said, no spoilers, but the movie's just charming. And like I said, there are many moments where because I watched this movie twice. I watched it the first time, watched it all the way through, loved it. Then I watched it a second time yesterday on the Saturday, just to pardon me, sorry about that. Just to kind of get some notes, but also what I wanted to do, which I'll get on in a minute, is that I wrote down a list of every background character, every sort of nod here and there, bit of nostalgia, bit of character pop up that I could see. And it was just so much fun to pause the screen and be like, oh my god, there's that. Oh my god, there's that character. Oh, that moment, that moment. Or when you listen to them talk, and you can see that the writing is so clever. You have the right. I don't know who wrote this, but you have the comedic timing of John Mulaney as Chip, who is a hilarious comedian. I'm a big fan of John Mulaney. If you go onto Netflix, just search John Mulaney and just watch his specials. He's hilarious. But also you've got Andy Samberg, who is also hilarious, playing Dale. So you've got them two playing off each other. I would more than guess that they probably ad-libbed a lot of their lines. They joke around. They make a lot of jokes. They bounce off each other really, really well. I'd love to see more movies with John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. I think they'd be fantastic together. But again, that just adds to the charm. But also, like I said, this movie is member berries for new and for old. For old fans, there's stuff there. And there's stuff there for the newer fans as well. My little brother, when he watched it, he was like, "Who were the Rescue Rangers?" And after the movie finished, I put on some of the episodes of Rescue Rangers, and he was like, "Well, their voices are different." And I'm like, "I know, but that was their real voices. They were just putting on voices for the um, for Rescue Rangers because they were meant to be squeaky chipmunks. It'd be a bit weird if they had sort of like non-squeaky sort of voices. Even though we know as adults that's not true, that's the kind of lore and kind of story they're trying to tell to the kids, is that they're two different people. They're actors pretending to be something they're not, i.e., show business, acting, macabre, You can't see, but I was just putting my hands in the air like Jack Sparrow, like, but yeah, like I said, it's a generally great movie. I really, really enjoyed it. As I said, I recommend it for everybody. I recommend it for nostalgia fans. I recommend it for non-nostalgia people, people who've got kids, people who don't have kids. If you're like me and you're an adult but you still like watching cartoons, then by all means, this is for you. Like, after I've watched this, I've started watching DuckTales, the brand new DuckTales with David Tennant doing the voice for Scrooge McDuck. And I don't remember the other characters, but I know John Ralphio. He will always be John Ralphio to me. But the guy that does plays John Ralphio, his name's escaping me at the moment, but he does one of the voices in that show. And I'm really, really enjoying it. My mum came in, she's like, "You're such a child, you're 24." I'm like, "I know, but I love cartoons. Cartoons are great. Cartoons will always be a part of my DNA." But as I mentioned, I did write a list. I wrote a list of every single reference that I noticed, and I did. Hold on, one, two. I did 2 pages back to front, right, of everything I saw. So this is everything. No, I will say this. I will put my hand up and say potential spoilers. Even though a lot of these are background characters, a lot of these are one or two are characters that you will meet, but overall are background characters. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you want to go in, not know any background characters and kind of see it firsthand, but have that proper real member berries nostalgia moment, then by all means, pause, leave it, come back later, and listen to this. But if you don't mind, if it doesn't bother you, then by all means, stay for this. So I'm going to count to 3, and then when I get to 1, I'm going to start reading this list. Okay, so I'll do after 1. So be ready. So 3, 2, 1. Final chance. I'm going. Okay, now. Okay, so first of all, we got the Simpsons wheelhouse. There's a lot of Simpsons. I say a lot. If you look in the background, you'll see a lot of Simpson-esque sort of characters. Not specifically the Simpsons, even though you do see the Simpsons. But there are a lot of Simpsons-esque characters in the background. That art style. That's why I put wheelhouse, because nothing specific. It was never any specific character. It was just a character in the style of the Simpsons. You got the Transformers, the Three Little Pigs, as I mentioned, Roger Rabbit, Baloo the Bear, who's had CGI work because because Blue had his own TV show, and obviously Blue from the original Jungle Book, and then they remade the Jungle Book movie in CGI with Bill Murray. So that means that, Blue now gets the CGI treatment. He's now more popular, more famous. In the story. Sadly, he's not done voiced by Bill Murray, but that's fine. It didn't need to be. They probably couldn't. But probably all the money that they were spending probably was like, you know what, we can get a standard voice actor in to do it. Lumiere's there. Ugly Sonic, which I will talk more about Ugly Sonic in a minute. Trust me, I have a special section for Ugly Sonic. We've got Ugly Sonic. Tigra, which I never thought we'd ever see Tigra in live action. Tigra was a character from the Avengers. I think it was the Avengers TV show from the 90s, I think. Please don't quote me on that one. But Tigra is a really fascinating character that doesn't get a lot of love. But I'm glad that she appeared here. You got Ash from Pokemon. Quick glimpse, if you miss it in the background, that's it. He's gone. Flounder from The Little Mermaid. Next page, you've got Ice Age Ice Cream. Right, this made me laugh. You haven't just got mentions and characters in the background, but obviously, as you've got to realize, we're now in the real world of these characters and our actors. They're not the characters that we saw on screen. So obviously, Chip and Dale are different, in real life. So you'd have to imagine that a lot of these characters, a lot of these actors, shall we call them, when they're not making movies or not making cartoons, they've got to sell products. And as a lot of actors do nowadays, you get a lot of actors that are endorsing perfumes or watches or clothing, stuff like that. Same sort of deal, same sort of idea. So when I saw these, it generally made me smile. So we've got ice cream, which Ice Age Ice Cream, shall we say, which has Scrat on the side. The detail was really blurry, so I couldn't see what flavour it was, but it had Scrat on the side. It was great. Looney Tunes pasta meals, which I think that was real. I'm sure I've seen Looney Tunes a pasta meal before, and I'm sure I've seen Ice Age Ice Cream. That one rings a bell as well, but I don't know if either of those things were real things. But I feel like if I googled it, more than likely. This one made me laugh. Frozone from The Incredibles. Food, vegetable medley, which I thought was hilarious. So that made me giggle. Alvin and the Chipmunks is there. You've got Dobby from Harry Potter, but Dobby is now the new face of Gucci, which I thought was hilarious. Again, he was on a billboard. I was like, that's funny, because here's Dobby with a really serious face, kind of like if you would imagine, what was that Ben Stiller movie? Oh, it's really escaping me now. Zoolander, where he's got blue steel, and every look is the same. Looking at the really pout duck face. Yeah, you've got Dobby doing a duck face on a billboard for Gucci. It just made me giggle whenever I saw it. E.T. versus Batman. Yeah, generally that was a movie. That was a billboard for a movie. In this world, it was, and I was like, that would never happen. But I want to see it now. I just want to see E.T. battle Batman. Like, Batman would probably kick the shit out of E.T., but I just think it'd be hilarious. There are cars from Cars. So the Pixar movie Cars, there are real life cars driving around with eyes and mouths. It's really weird because the cars look realistic, but obviously the windscreens and they've got the faces and the tongues. It was just really weird to see that in real life. Pastry Police from Wreck-It Ralph. I called them the Pastry Police because I can't remember if these had names. But if you watch Wreck-It Ralph, you probably remember that there was a donut and an eclair police officers or guards from Wreck-It Ralph when you go to Vanellope's Fun Sweets Sugar Rush game. Um, and that made me giggle because again, they're just background characters. They're just there, they don't do anything. But it was just like, oh, I remember, you remember, I remember, member berries. I love it. It's great. This movie was made for me because I'm a very nostalgic, nerdy person, i.e., nerdstalgia. Get it, get it. Um, it all fits together. It's like one big jigsaw. It's great, but I love that kind of stuff. So whenever I see it, oh my god, look, I genuinely made that noise. It was great. As you can probably guess, I watched this movie on my own twice because I was just be too embarrassed to watch it with my parents because they'd make fun of me. Anyway, moving on. The mum from Phineas and Ferb, she's in there. Cats from the CGI Cats movie, the new Cats movie based off the musical. Yeah, you got the CGI there of two characters. Like, oh god, it's horrible. I still haven't watched that movie, but I refuse to watch it. If I'm going to watch Cats, it's going to be the original musical, which I have partly seen because a friend of mine had it on DVD, and they brought it in when we was at school to watch during a drama lesson. So I've only seen a bits of it. But if I am going to watch Cats, it's going to be the original Cats. I'm not going to watch the remake CGI. I just heard it. I heard it was horrible, something to do with like buttholes and stuff like that, and just weird. I don't know. Put me off. I was like, nah, not for me. Beowulf CGI. I remember when Beowulf came out, and I remember like again, it was the CGI. It was like it, it was like they make a joke out of it in the film where the one character's standing there, and he's looking straight ahead, but the character's like, no, I'm clearly looking right at you. And one of the Chip and Dale, but if you just look at this character, he's got those glazed like Polar Express eyes, and he zooms into the character's eyes, and you can just see how look at these real dead eyes. He's just he's horrible. And then maybe we've gone. I really scared now to go back and watch the Polar Express because I never noticed that before. So I'm going to watch the Polar Express and I'm going to see those really dead eyes, and I'm not going to never going to be able to watch that movie ever again now. But yeah, so you got the Beowulf CGI, which is they make a joke out of it. I'm not going to explain the joke because I don't want to ruin it. But that bit made me laugh. You've got hold on another piece of paper. So next sheet of paper, you've got Shrek shampoo, which I remember growing up with Shrek, and I remember Shrek being everywhere. I don't think I ever had Shrek shampoo. I had Star Wars shampoo, definitely. But I definitely had Shrek shampoo. But apparently they make a joke out of it, and I did Google it, this joke, and the joke is it's kind of on point, but I won't spoil it. Old Peter Pan, they really did Peter Pan dirty. They really did in this show, and I'm not going to go into that detail specifically. If you watch it's not really a spoiler either. Like it's in the trailer. Peter Pan is in it. You do see old man Peter Pan in the trailer, but it was just very much the fact that they just do Peter Pan dirty here, if you ask me. You've got Rapunzel doll, where it's yeah. I'm not going to go into that one. One of my favourites was another billboard, Lego Les Miserables. So Les Miserables, one of my favourite classical books, one of my favourite musicals, Les Miserables, and they've got the Lego version. Again, something that I didn't know I wanted till I saw it. I'm a big fan of Lego. If I was rich, I'd fill my house full of Lego because, as we all know, anybody who's a Lego connoisseur knows how expensive Lego is. But I would pay horrendous amounts of money to watch a Lego Les Miserables because I think that'd be fantastic. So when I saw the billboard, I was like, "That's not what I think it says, is it?" And when I looked in close, I was like, "It does. It does say what I saw it said." So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh God, they did it! They're crazy son of a bitch. They went there." Where's it? Randy from South Park. You got Uncle Scrooge for a couple seconds. A friend of mine who's a huge David Tennant fan, bigger David Tennant than me. A bigger David Tennant fan than me, should I say? He's not a bigger David Tennant. Was oh my God, Scrooge McDuck is going to be in it, and that's why I found out that Scrooge McDuck does the character of DuckTales, which is the reason why I'm now watching DuckTales. Get it? See, again, big jigsaw. It all comes together. I might go off on tandems and I may waffle at times, but I always bring it back to the point. I'm quite clever that way. That was a stroke of my ego now. Anyway, but yeah, Scrooge McDuck is in there only for a couple seconds. You got Moana again. This is another product placement for a food. So you got Moana's nuts. I don't know if it does say Moana's nuts, but you've got Moana and then a big jar of what I would say is either trail mix or nuts. Again, it was quite blurry, couldn't tell. So I just wrote it down as Moana's nuts, which made me giggle because I'm a child. Butthead. Uh, Butthead from Beavis and Butthead is running for senator. Again, I thought that was quite funny. That'd be hilarious. He'd probably do a better job than whoever we've got in charge right now. You got Paul Rudd as himself, because why not? Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. Why not have him there? Like, the guy is immortal. So this will come out now, and in 50 years' time, he'll still be alive and look exactly the same because he's obviously a vampire. My Little Pony, Masters of the Universe, and finally, my favourite, and this bit actually got the biggest laugh out of me the most. Seth Rogen is in this movie, and he plays the Beowulf character, the character that is the CGI Beowulf character. And I'm not going to go into specifics, but there is a moment where he hurts himself, and he's on the ground, and he opens his eyes, and there's Pumbaa is the character he played in the live action Jungle Book, with the Seth Rogen voice talking to him. Then you've got Mantis from Kung Fu Panda, again another Seth Rogen character. Again, Seth Rogen's voice talks to him, and then you've got Blob from Monsters vs Aliens, which is an incredibly underrated DreamWorks movie, which one day I will do a deep dive into that film because again it's underrated. But then Bob shows up, which is another character that Seth Rogen voiced, and it's just a hilarious moment where, like, you've got Seth Rogen with Seth Rogen with Seth Rogen with Seth Rogen, and there is a moment where they do that really sort of iconic Seth Rogen laugh, and it got the biggest laugh out of me, the biggest chuckle, and it's one of my favorite parts of the film because whenever it shows up, I'm just like, they did it. Like, obviously they did it because you have Seth Rogen and you have all these different animated characters, and Seth Rogen has done a lot of animated characters, that you had to do this joke. And when they did it, it was just like, that's hilarious. Like, I love it. Like, it's my favorite part. But that's all the characters that I could see. As I mentioned, I'm a young bean. I'm a tiny young little boy, tiny bean. So there are so many characters in the background, and there are a high potentiality that there are a lot of characters that I don't know who they are, or I don't recognize. I have no real reference point to. So there's loads of characters I probably missed. But let's just say there's loads. Like, if you could put most of the frames, you could pause and you could see somebody or something in the background of a character, and you just, even if it's for a few seconds, it's like, oh my god, look, there's that character, and there's that character, and there's that character, there's that character, and it's lovely. It's real member berries. It really, really is. One thing I want to do before we end this review, before we do my overall thoughts and feelings, is that I want to give a special mention to Ugly Sonic. A lot of people were surprised when this was announced, because I didn't know about it till the movie come out. Obviously it came out at midnight, so it came out early in America before it came out in the morning when I woke up in the UK. So there's already a lot of people and a lot of reviewers that had already seen the film, and they were talking about, how ugly Sonic appears. Now, for anybody who's not in the know, when I say ugly Sonic, when they did the Sonic movies, originally there was an original design. Now, you might have seen it if you search online. I'm sure the trailer's still up, but the original trailer and the original design for Sonic was very human. He had a very human. He had human eyes, human teeth, but he had a very hedgehoggy sort of body, skinny arms. He just looked terrible, absolutely horrendous, really, really scary, right? And he like, there were moments where he had his eyes wide open and smiling on promotional art. It was just terrifying. And obviously the internet came together, was like, no, kill it with fire, get rid of it. And then they changed the design, which was a fantastic decision, because the design for Sonic now in the Sonic movie 1 and 2 is absolutely flawless, fantastic, incredible, high marks. But in this, they bring Ugly Sonic in. And I'm not going to say in what capacity he's there or why, because that'd be spoilers. But Ugly Sonic is there, and they make a joke out of the fact of many times the fact of his human teeth, how hideous and scary his human teeth are, and how basically he was something that wasn't meant to be created. He was like Frankenstein's monster. He wasn't meant to be made, but now he is made. We're stuck with him. You know what I mean? And they take the mick out of him. They take the piss. All in good humor, and even the character Ugly Sonic takes the mick out of himself as well. There's a moment where he's like, "Oh, you want me to go fast? Oh, that's other Sonic. Ugly Sonic goes slow. You know, I got my own speed. You know, I don't go fast. I go slow. You know, I'm the exact opposite of Sonic. I'm Ugly Sonic," and he generally makes fun of it, jokes. You know, and it was nice to know that studio heads have a sense of humor. That studio heads know, like, yeah, that was a bad decision, but we can have a joke, we can have a laugh about it, we can joke about it. So when Ugly Sonic appears, it's very much of like, I don't think I'd want to watch a movie. Like, I'm so glad they changed the design, because I don't think I could have sat and watched the first Sonic movie and liked it as much as I did if this is how the character design looked. Because just watching him move around, moving his hands and talking, and it's just so freaky. It's like, why? No, this looks so horrible. Thank God they changed it. But yeah, I just wanted to give a special mention to Ugly Sonic, because again, like the movie in general, this is a movie that I never thought would ever get made, and I never thought that we'd ever see Ugly Sonic. Because when have you ever heard about an original design for a character, and before it gets used in another form of media? Usually, that character gets designed, gets made, they decide not to use it, and it gets put into an archive somewhere, and that's it. It's never seen the light of day. Whereas it's quite nice where, like I said, studio heads have come together, realised that they made a mistake. You know, we have a laugh, a joke about it. You know, let's call it Ugly Sonic. Let's laugh at ourselves, and you know, show it off. And so I appreciate it. I'm glad that it was never shown as the original design for the Sonic, and it was used and blah 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 blah. But to actually see it being used, I like it, and it kind of makes me want to see that in other forms. You know, other sort of character types, you know, different designs, different original sort of concept for characters. Just got a little thing of like, oh yeah, I'm the original design for this character, but as you can see, the character that other character is the final design is more famous. You know, gets more love, and I'm stuck here, you know, signing um, ten $10 sort of signatures, you know, just to get by, stuff like that. Um, I don't know if you'd ever see it again. Probably not, but it was just fun. I would generally, my overall feelings, going on to my overall feelings now, just to end it all off, is I would like to see a sequel. I would like a sequel to Chip and Dale Rescue Movies. They keep making jokes about it, the whole idea of a reboot and doing a reboot. Um, so I'd like to see a sequel. You know, I don't know how they would do it, but I'd like to see. I'd like to see more Roger Rabbit-esque movies. You know what I mean? I'd like to see more movies like this where you see loads of different characters in the real world, as if we lived in a universe where cartoons were real. You know, how would it look? How would it feel? How would those characters act? You know, again, would they act like normal actors? Would they behave like our actors do? Would you get some actors that, you know, some cartoon characters who think they're too good for anybody else? Or would you get some that are still quite humble, still quite friendly, quite nice? You know what I mean? So I would like more movies like that. So under that basis, I would like more of it. Under the basis of characters and the laughs and the jokes, again, another sequel. So overall, I liked this movie. If I had to rate it at 10, I'd give it a 9. Fantastic film. Really enjoy it. I recommend it for all ages, old fans, new fans. If you're nostalgic, if you like nostalgia, old things, then watch it. And yeah, I hope for a sequel. And again, this movie's getting high praise, a lot more higher praise than I think even the Disney execs thought it was going to get. So yeah, overall positive, loved it. I would love a sequel. If they don't make a sequel, that's completely fine. If they do, I'll be over the moon. And I just want more Roger Rabbit-esque sort of movies. Um, Again, streaming or non-stream, if they do put them in theaters, like I mentioned, it'd probably be a bit difficult to put into theaters. But if they do this through streaming, then I'm all here for it. I love it. So yeah, so that's my thoughts and feelings on the Chip and Dale movie. Have you watched it? If you have, let me know on Twitter. And yeah, so let's wrap it up for the ending, shall we? All right, then, let's do it. So that is all she wrote. As you can tell, I genuinely enjoyed myself with this film. I really, really did. I've been looking forward to this since it's been announced. I've been really, really excited, and the movie didn't disappoint. So that's why I can rate it so high and why I can give it such a high recommendation, because generally there's something in it for everybody, and it's just a genuine enjoy. Um, but as I said, if you've seen it and you liked it or you didn't like it, by all means, please do let me know on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod. If you listen to this on Spotify, that I more than likely I would drop a question on Spotify. So if you scroll down, there'll be a question section. Just add in your question there, and it doesn't even have to be a question. It can just be because I'll probably be a question saying, "What do you think of the movie?" and then you answer it there. It's a new thing that Spotify are doing, so I wanted to try run it there. So again, even if you don't follow me on Twitter, I'd still recommend you go follow me on Twitter. But if you don't want to, if you're on Spotify, it's completely fine. Just drop in your answer there, and that'll be fantastic. Also, you can find the podcast on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and hopefully soon, fingers crossed, almost everywhere else you can find podcasts. I'm slowly working my way through getting the show on as many platforms as possible. Currently 4 platforms. So not doing so bad if you ask me. Also, if you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to give me a star rating from 1 to 5. It really, really helps. Whatever you feel like is fair, from 1 to 4. If you thought it was crap, by all means, give me a 1. That's completely fair. If you thought I was the best thing you ever heard in your life, then give me a 5. Or if you give me a 4, whatever you think's fair, by all means, give me that rating. One other thing I want to say before I say goodbye is that I want to reiterate about my incredible friend who did the music for me for the intro and in a minute the outro that you're going to hear. By all means, please do hit him up, Sly Elliott on Twitter, and check out his podcast, please, called Game Gains. Also, you can find that on Twitter. You can find that on Spotify as well. He does that with a co-host of another friend of mine where he talks about video games and stuff like that. So by all means, please check that out. If you're interested in his music, check out his Twitter as well. Get in touch with him, and yeah, hopefully, like he did for me, you can create some magic and some sweet, sweet, beautiful music. I can't believe I just said that last bit, but I'm going to stick with it. So, thank you for watching this episode of Nerdstalgic, and I will see you all very soon. All right, guys. See you later. Bye bye.